Hi, I'm Paul G. I'm the Vice President of Digital Product Development and Management at JAMA Network. I'm going to talk to you about the portion of product management that has to do with building a team and operating a team. Hopefully a little bit different than what to differentiate this talk. The JAMA Network, if you're not aware, just to give context, is the peer review publishing arm of the American Medical Association. I was saying earlier, we're sort of a small, big publisher. AMA sounds very big, but JAMA Network's a tiny portion of it. Its own budget, kind of locked down. We have resource constraints like anyone else, and we put a lot of thought into what we build before we do it, or at least we try. We have been releasing journals the last couple of years, so we have new publishing products that are releasing almost every year, and that grows our website that my team has to be responsible for. We have an LMS we're responsible for now. There's things that sort of proliferate and grow, and our challenge has been how to structure our processes so that we don't have to grow the development staff and the product management staff and also the digital marketing staff that is all part of the same team. But we can grow all of the products we serve, which is probably a very common scenario you're all feeling. I kind of break down any organization into a flowchart because I tend to do that to things. And the way I kind of see organizations, you have these operational units that serve customers at the front end and the back end. And when it comes to those that work on projects or products, there's the strategy group, which would be your general management group with marketing and sales coming up with ideas that sooner or later become concepts approved to become projects. You've got a development group somewhere, whether it's internal or at a vendor, who actually iterates and builds out the products, bringing them from some alpha phase to a beta phase or whatever you may call that. And at some point it becomes a live thing, and when it becomes a live thing, the game begins to gain real users, take a lead, turn it into a registration, turn it into a sale, and then have increased sales engagement for the life of that product until it peters out and the end of the product comes. When you think about project-oriented organizations or product organizations, I think a lot of what we're talking about today is that product organization that's thinking about the path at the top, where there's a full pipeline of activities that start once a product's born. And it's not really a product until it's actually in the hands of a customer. Till that point, it's in a project path. And I've worked on lots of projects that built products, and when the project ended, the product launched and then it ended too, kind of like there's this sense that there's no one there to bring it up and move it forward. And that is what product management is there for, is to listen to the users, to understand a live operating product, how to support it, how to facilitate it, how to deal with bugs, how to think about them, because they happen. Google causes lots of them because they change, and then we have to change. And it causes consternation in a project team when those changes start to dismantle the product they thought they built and delivered, right? And instead of thinking about it from a top-down, holistic, patient perspective, we usually get hysterical when those bugs come up and surprise us, and we're looking for someone to blame. You can blame Google, I'd like to. But this is a slide I presented earlier, so I'm sorry if it repeats, but one of the tactics we did to solve that issue is to separate the development team from our product team. There are two different sets of skills for someone building a new product, listening to customers and iterating with them to sort of prototype and build, from those that actually improve a live product. And as we've done that, things have gotten a little bit smoother and easier. All of the people on our team, and a lot of these slides, by the way, are actually slides I used to train my team. I thought that was an interesting way to give the talk. But if you're confused about why you're doing anything, like for us, we try to figure out, is it making traffic? Traffic drives all of our business objectives, our mission objectives, our editorial objectives. We get citations, we get ad sales, we get institutional sales, all from people looking at articles. If there's no traffic, then something's wrong. So when you're trying to determine if you should fix one bug or another and you have to make that choice, that's a good question to ask. And when you're trying to figure out why you come to work every day, like, this is a good way to think about it. And all the G&Os of my team are kind of based off of traffic and metrics. And you'll have a challenge, like, you're supposed to change metrics by X% a year. How do you do that? It's up to that individual to find the projects and take that as a challenge to kind of push it ahead. Trying to orient the employees and the management teams to be aligned in tactics that allow people to make their own decisions and to have a high level of morale and pride in what they're doing. Another thing we do, I try to break down the way that we work in a development flow to make it so that people can work in small groups and make their own decisions. If anyone's ever developed a product by committee, which I'm sure everyone has, it feels really bad. And you could have I don't know if you've ever tried to count the man hours in any one of those 30 people meetings that go nowhere. But if you have 2 or 3 people sitting together and then reporting to a group of listeners who have a chance to scream if something's wrong, it usually moves a lot faster. Transparency is important, but it's also important that you can work in small knit groups. So, and this chart kind of shows how you definitely need the customer, the business manager, the voice of those groups to be heard by project managers, by the whole product team. That quadrant of project manager, strategic product manager, technical product manager, and quality assurance manager, there needs to be a direct communication between them and the business and the customer. The tech lead and the BA in an agile process need to talk to the project team. They don't need to talk to the customer necessarily. There can be a translation there. And the tech lead and the BAs can talk to the developers and they can go into grooming, and those developers don't need to talk to the project team necessarily. And this particular model is how we work internally, but it's also how we run agile processes with vendors, with Silverchair specifically, so that we can be part of an agile flow but still not be in the same building, which technically breaks the agile practice. We want to make it so that the BA and the tech lead know just as much about the product and why they're building it as the product manager. Getting that right is easier said than done, but it's the challenge we're always trying to work on, and as we've worked on it, it's gotten better and better. We separate in our world bugs and system reports for problems or failures or even improvement ideas from the actual development flow, and we use 2 different systems. We use a ticketing system when people want to say there's a bug, and we use a wiki system. We use Confluence when we start to flesh out ideas. The wiki helps because instead of getting a ticket, seeing someone report something's needs to be built, and then sending that on to someone to build it, where you just get this static sort of push to a new person, the wiki allows us to collaborate, to build it out, to change it, and to not call it done until we agree that it's actually fully formed. And we actually spend more time on the words than we do on building it most of the time. And we see that as success. And our bug rates have gone down as our development path has gone up once we started applying these practices. This slide is about stakeholder management. You need to always tell the truth to every stakeholder, but it's not enough to just say it once. And it's not necessarily trying to indicate here that the truth's the same every time. You may learn something the first time you explain it. There's no problem with changing what you say and what you believe the next time you say it. And if you repeat it over and over and over again, and then people don't interrupt you and don't argue with and actually agree, you've reached synthesis. But if you never talk about the ideas, or you try to get like try to hide something or not say the full truth about what you're building, the surprise in the end is a lot worse than just saying it out loud over and over and over again, making sure everyone's aware, and it's usually a vocal communication. Email doesn't work. And trying to develop a relationship with all your stakeholders. That's the hardest part of the job, is over communicating, but it's the only one that actually makes it work. All the charts, people start to glaze over around, but it's the interpersonal talking that helps. And this is a repeat slide too, but it's also, I'll try to change it a little bit. Everyone in the team, when they're looking at how to activate their jobs, how they can be part of the product management cycle, whether the newest or the longest termed employee, they can be looking around what they do every day and looking for things they haven't used that we should be using, bringing those forward as ideas. There's things all around us that help us innovate. Every change can be meaningful. Some of the smallest changes that we've made have had the biggest impact, and they were sitting in front of us the whole time. You just get used to seeing the room sometimes. So we try to shake it up, and we try to encourage everybody to be part of the decision-making process. Thanks.